Welcome back to the Northwest Tank Line Super Bowl show, coming to you from Radio Row, Mandalay Bay in Las Vegas. Super Bowl 58, the Chiefs and the 49ers, our 23rd appearance at Radio Row. And a guy who's been here probably just as much or more is the one and only Mike Florio from NBC Sports and Pro Football Talk, and probably one of our most expensive gets thus far. Because not only did he want one cigar, he wanted, you got the Oliva and you got the Romeo and Julieta.
Listen, you don't get anywhere in life without taking what you want. And I wanted them both, and I got them both.
Hey, you know what? A buddy of mine that I used to work with.
You may think you're big, but you can't. I'm scrappy.
Hey, you're a former lawyer. You can negotiate a good deal. A buddy of mine once told me, he said that I worked with him. He says, it's not what you're worth, it's what you negotiate.
Yeah, that's right.
And you just negotiated a couple, so that's awesome. Hey, all kidding aside, great to have you on board this week. I know we chat often at Radio Row. How much do you look forward to this week, just having the ability to interact with people face-to-face rather than, being over a TV set or whatever the case may be?
It's funny because, like anything else that is challenging and demanding and different from your routine, I'm very much a creature of my routine. I love my routine. I love my Monday to be the same as it is every other week. I love my Tuesday to be the same. I like to be home. I like to go to my barn and have a little bourbon and have a cigar. I like to be around my dog. I don't like to leave home if I don't have to. So in many respects, I dread this week because it is a major disruption to my routine.
Really?
It is 1 week of my life that is forever lost. And as you get, as Jim Harbaugh has said recently, to the point where there are fewer sands in the hourglass, you want to enjoy every moment of every day. So I prefer to be home, and I don't want to come, and I don't want to do this. And then when I get here, it's like, yeah, this is fun. And it's great. Like today, we had 9 different guests, and to be able to sit there and talk to Baker Mayfield, and then here comes Derek Brooks, and then here comes Max Crosby, and then there's Dan Marino and Steve Young and Justin Jefferson, and to have a chance to sit and just have fun and get to know these guys a little bit better and not do the standard same old questions they're going to get 1,000 times, just to really try to make them laugh and be memorable. That's our goal. We want our interviews of these guys to be memorable to them at a time when they're doing one after another. So once we get into it, like it's almost like anything else. Once you get a good sweat going, you like it.
Yeah.
Until you get the sweat going, it's like, I really don't want to do this.
Well, it's interesting you mentioned that because that's one of the things we always try to do with the Canadian twist and such. We had Donovan Knabb join us. We didn't even talk football. We talked hockey about his nephew, Darnell Nurse, who's part of the Edmonton Oilers, who are on a great run. And for Darnell, he was ecstatic because we didn't have to talk football hardly at all. And that's what you want to do is you want to make it different, right, so people have a lot of fun doing it.
Yeah, that's right. You try to come up with something that they're not going to hear 1,000 other times this day or this week or whatever else they're doing. And that part of it's a challenge, but that part of it is enjoyable. And the other thing, too, is you get to the point where it is exhausting to be on all the time.
Yeah.
I like to be able to shut it down. We've got a live show tonight at the Mandalay Bay Sportsbook at 5 o'clock where we're going to do our picks for the Super Bowl. Chris Sims and I are going to do it, and we're going to be answering questions, and we're going to be hobnobbing with whoever happens to show up to want to witness the mess that will be our live show. But you got to be on for that. You got to be on for this. You got to be on for that. And it's just hard to be on all the time when I'm used to 7 to 9 a.m. Eastern PFT Live on Peacock and Sirius XM 85, and then once 9 o'clock rolls around, I got the rest of the day, except for the days I do radio call-ins, and I do several of them a week. But most of the day, it's just me doing whatever I want to do, posting content at PFT, having my routine, having lunch at 12 every day on the clock, taking a little nap in the afternoon, working out when I want to work out. Like, I enjoy that routine. I enjoy not having to be on all the time. But by the time we get to the middle of the week, it's like, it is 1 week out of the year. It is different, and it is fun.
Hey, you know what? Speaking of fun, I watched your preview of the conference championship games, and you and Sims were having fun. You're talking about downsizing the farm. He's talking about going into the garage and watching the games. You guys have such fun with that. I mean, it was really, really cool to see.
And it was even more fun because I was right on both games, and I think he was wrong on both games. Did he pick the Lions to win? I think
he might have. Yeah.
And I picked the Chiefs to win, and I think he picked the Ravens. Or he picked the 49ers to win but cover the spread. I think that was the difference. So that was a good day for me. I was very happy with that. We're very competitive with each other. I've got no desire to bet on sports because, number one, my dad was a bookie, and he told me at a young age you can't win, and I still believe that now. You can't win over time. You're going to lose. You may have some short-term dopamine rushes, and that's fine if you like that. If you understand over time, you're going to lose. The best thing you can hope for is to be almost 50-50. That's it. But he and I get a lot of that dopamine rush from competing with each other and battling each other every week, every season, and that's great because it costs us nothing. And we get paid to do it.
Yeah.
It's even better.
You're having fun. Mike Florio from NBC Sports and Pro Football Talk is our guest here at Radio Row. I'm going to throw this one to you and make it a little different for you. You've been asked a million questions. You've probably answered them a million times. What's something that Mike Florio would like to talk about that maybe's flown under the radar that people really haven't gotten to you about?
For this
Either
Super Bowl?
You want to talk about the Super Bowl or you want to talk about issues regarding the league as well?
Well, I still don't believe the league is taking the gambling situation seriously enough. And when Roger Goodell said in 2012 that if legalized gambling occurs on a widespread basis, normal incidents of the game, such as fumbles, bad snaps, penalties, etc., will fuel speculation, distrust, and allegations of point shaving or game fixing, I want to know what they're really going to do to deal with that now that we're in this age of fully bloomed sports betting, 38 states in the District of Columbia, the NFL profiting from it in various different ways, owners permitted to own up to 5% of a sportsbook company, up to 5%. You think of how big some of these are. 5% is a major investment in a company like that, whether it's DraftKings or Sportsbook or whatever, or FanDuel or whatever. Anyway, I feel like that's not being covered enough. I feel like they've been able to manipulate the situation so they don't have to answer the tough questions about it.
And here's my concern, and it always has been. Do you feel the NFL is vulnerable, especially when it comes to officials? And we saw that happen in the NBA.
Well, here's the thing. I have been inundated with complaints from fans via email, social media, etc. My son is a big believer in this, that things are fixed now. Things are fixed. It's fixed. It's fixed. Now, I don't think the NFL could ever sit down and say, we want the Chiefs to win the Super Bowl, so here's our plan for making it happen. Too many people would know about it. Too many people would be floating in the East River by the time it was all said and done to keep that secret. But I think that the opportunity is there for one or two people who choose to try to do something. If it is an official, a Tim Donaghy type of a person, or if it's just a player who has, for example, let's say it's a running back, and his over-under rushing yards for a game is 74.5, and he's got 70. Oh, my hamstring.
Yeah.
I can't play anymore today. Easy way to hit the under. Easy way to hit the under. And those little things could happen, and I don't know what they have in place. All they have in place are the rules against betting and how they enforce the rules against betting, and there's an inherent hypocrisy there. It's do as we say, not as we do. But I just think they have, and what I'm trying to do is get them to be sensitive to it and to spot the problem and fix it before it blows up in the form of a major controversy that hurts everyone and results in...
Put the stop sign at the intersection before there's a fatality.
And avoid a situation where Congress would create an agency that would have oversight of the NFL and maybe other pro sports to force them to handle information properly. There is a ton of inside information. In the stock world, it's called material non-public information. You go to jail if you trade on inside information on stocks. They need to have clear rules. They need to have strong penalties against people who have access to the information that affects a game and how that information could get misused and end up being manipulated and leveraged by a gambler into an unfair inside advantage.
Mike Florio is our guest, NBC Sports, of course, Pro Football Talk. One question I wanted to ask Thomas Dimitroff when we had him, and I messed up and I forgot about it. I want to throw it your way. Why is Bill Belichick not coaching in this league this year? Is it just an issue of control?
Originally, I thought there's no way he's not going to get one of these 7 jobs other than the Patriots job, which he obviously left. It comes down to, I believe, what Robert Kraft said on the day that they announced the mutual parting. Kraft was asked whether or not he gave any consideration to taking Bill Belichick up on his offer to assume less power and stay. Kraft said that's not practical. It would be uncomfortable. It would be awkward because you've got a guy who used to run everything who now isn't, and somebody else is. How do you interact? How do you coexist? How do you make that work? I think the same thing applies if he goes somewhere else because of what he's been all these years. Let's say the Commanders had hired him to be the coach. And I've been told, and I believe this to be true, Josh Harris, the owner of the Commanders, wanted Bill Belichick to be the coach, or at least was enamored with the idea. That's the way I heard it. I don't know that he wanted him to be, but he was enamored with the idea. But he understands. I've got Adam Peters, who I want to be the GM, who was a lackey in the Patriots organization for 6 years under Belichick. So when Belichick shows up in his cutoff hoodie and that perpetual scowl and sits down at the first draft meeting and Adam Peters is in charge, is he really in charge?
Yeah.
Can you ever really be in charge? Like, the guy who ran everything in New England and won 6 Super Bowls is now the coach and he works for you. Does he really work for you? When it's time to pick a player in round 4 and you've got a receiver that you found from Marshall and you say, this is the guy I think we should take here, and Belichick goes, what are you going to do? What are you going to do? So who's really in charge? So I think that's the reality. Until someone is willing to give him the keys and say, drive the car wherever you want, he's not going to have a job. And I think Arthur Blank wanted to do it, and I'd love to know the true story behind what happened with Arthur Blank and Rich McKay to get Bill Belichick to go a different direction.
All right, the question I like throwing our guests, I'm not into the prediction game, but I like finding out what intrigues them about the game, the questions they want to see answered. For you, what are those questions?
Patrick Mahomes has lost to 2 quarterbacks during his career in the postseason, Joe Burrow and Tom Brady. Can Brock Purdy be the third? Is Purdy that guy? If Purdy can do it, he's that guy. He joins a club that currently has 2 guys in it, Tom Brady and Joe Burrow. If Purdy can beat Patrick Mahomes in a postseason game, especially in the Super Bowl, where Mahomes has a chance to go from 2 to 3, and we know Mahomes is fixated on getting to 7. He should be. That's what's driving him. You know, and it's great for him to have that goal. Because otherwise, I remember Terry Bradshaw talking about this back in the 70s or in the aftermath of his career. When you climb the mountain and you go back down to the bottom, he would go through like a depression, like, I'm going to climb the same damn mountain again. I just climbed that mountain. Well, I want to do something else. There's no other mountain to climb. That's the mountain, so climb it again. So in his era, there wasn't that same marker that we have now. Tom Brady, 7, go. And I think that makes it harder for Brock Purdy to do what he would need to do to try to win this thing. And I expect the Chiefs to win, but who knows? It's part of the fun of football. You never know what's going to happen. But I think that Mahomes, keenly aware of his legacy and what it means to get to 3. And he gets to 3, and we start thinking, he gets to 4, and we're like, uh-oh. Because he's only 6 years in as a starter in the NFL. It's amazing. And he could have had more than 2. If his toe wasn't injured in 2020, Super Bowl against the Buccaneers, he could already have 3. If the rules were different for overtime, or if the coin lands differently in 2018, he could already have 4, for crying out loud. If they don't blow the 21-3 lead to the Bengals in advance of Super Bowl 56 against the Rams, he could have 5 already. It's just amazing, and it makes me think he's going to keep coming back. He's going to keep knocking on the door. He's going to keep winning, and it makes me believe he's determined to get to number 3.
11 minutes of Mike Florio, and I never even bothered asking about your fantasy football team and what's going to occur.
Yeah. I told you I'd give you a good spot. I'll keep going if you want.
No, Mike, it's all great. We know you've had a very busy day.
They're playing me out. They got the music on to play me out.
And no, it's all good. It's, we appreciate
He doesn't want to have to give me a third cigar.
We appreciate you stopping by, and anytime you're in Vancouver, man.
I love Vancouver.
Tons of cigars.
My wife and I went to, I've told you this before, I'm sure. When we got married in 1994, we went to Seattle for a few days, Vancouver for a few days, and then Victoria Island. I love Vancouver. Stanley Park is awesome. One of these days, we're going to go back to Vancouver.
Well, when you go back, I'll take you to City Cigar, the largest cigar store in Western Canada, and you can have your fill, baby.
I look forward to negotiating with them.
Hey, Mike, thanks for doing this. Appreciate it.